Hey guys, Coach Danny, Integrated Martial Systems, Pediatrician International. One of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about and show maybe some of the differences. I get a lot of questions on cicadas. What are the cicadas? What are the contradas? What are the recontras? What's the cicada jab? What's the deal with all of that? So when we look at, as we come up through the system, learning all your different strikes and how to use those particular strikes, different angles of attack, targets that you're hitting. We get into the more advanced materials is we start looking at strategies. How do I defeat someone who is equal to me? Or maybe they may be a little bit quicker than I am, but their weapon is equal to in speed to what my weapon is. Or maybe the size of the weapon or the weight of the weapon is about equal. So we're similar, okay? So the strategies I use against that person is going to be a little bit different than what I'm going to do against someone who is a lot bigger and stronger than I am, or has a much heavier weapon. We get into that, and then we get into contrada theory. How do I defeat someone who has a heavier weapon than I am? I don't want to go force against force. And then there's the fact that maybe I'm a more powerful person, or that I have a bigger, heavier weapon, or both. And so my strategies are going to be different, and therefore the tactics that I use are going to be different. I mean, overall strategy is to win the fight, but how I go about doing that is going to be a little bit different. So cicadas is more along the lines of we're equal. Contradas is more along the lines of the other person is bigger, stronger, heavier, or has a heavier weapon. And then recontras is you're the bigger, stronger guy, or you have the heavier weapon. And so how do we go about doing some of those techniques? That's the basics on understanding the differences between the contradas. Now you're still doing angles 1, angles 2, angles 3, 4, yada, yada, yada. But how we go about using those things. So if we go back and we look at cicadas, the basic cicada jab, and we use it as an entry, or we may use it as a finish, or we may use it as just throwing something out as we leave. So the basic cicada jab is I'm drawing across, and we call this our advanced stance. Why? Because this is where it's in the advanced material that you begin to learn to use it. My right side or my weapon side is forward. I'm stepping off on a reverse triangle, or I could be stepping on a forward triangle, it doesn't really matter. But for the most part, I'm stepping on a reverse triangle because I'm hunting the center, and I'm drawing. As I do this, I'm drawing and I'm jabbing with the tip of the weapon. So as I draw across and I push forward, I'm driving the tip of the weapon toward the center. So laterally, when I go here, boom, I'm drawing and I'm jabbing right at the eyes, the corner of the eyes, the corner of the nose. Short power off of this. So I'm drawing, stepping offline and hitting straight down the center. And if I do that to the camera, as I step offline, the weapon tip goes toward you. For the most part, that's done off of someone coming with an angle 2. It doesn't matter if it's a diagonal angle or horizontal angle, I don't really care. I'm sliding past that. I may even touch and let them slide off of my weapon, and then jabbing directly into the nose of the eyes. And then how do I go from there? There's another aspect, which is a vertical jab, or it could be just a vertical pull down. And you'll see in the form where we'll jab and we'll pull down and go all the way to the floor. That wasn't very good, was it? I jab and I go all the way down to the floor. So that can be a vertical jab. It could be a vertical pull down. It could be a fake of the eyes and hit to the toes. That's also considered part of the cicada jab. So there's 3 components, or you can look at it as 4 if you really get. I can do a jab and a thrust return. I can do a pull down and a cut up. I can do a jab and a thrust return with a pull down, cut up with a thrust return. So we have these components: the horizontal jab, the vertical jab, the cut up, and then the thrust return. And usually it's done in a sequence of one of those. You're not necessarily going to go horizontal, vertical, vertical up. It may be jab to a thrust return, vertical, up, thrust, return. It may be that in the motion of moving your stick around, cutting up and then thrust, return. That's the basic Cicada jab. And will we use those as entries, or will we use them as egresses to get out, moving on to the next person? Most everything that we look at in PTI, Just International, is based off of multiple opponents. So we never really want to spend a whole lot of time with one person and get tied up with them. So most of our finishes will end up with turning and going back and looking for somebody else, or at least turning and looking to see what's behind you or onto the side of you, looking for another person or potential attacker. Contradas, conversely, is faking or hitting behind the weapon. So if my opponent is doing a number one, I may go toward him and then cut back on a two and hit behind his weapon. So I'm gonna fake the one, hit the two. Fake the two, hit the one. Fake the three, hit the four. Fake the four, hit the three. And for the most part, I'm hitting behind the weapon. Now we have 3 different timings that we play off of it. I actually like to play 4 different ones, but for the most part, when proper, there's 3. One is I make contact and I come right back really quick. And so I may hit toward the hand and he pulls his hand short, and so I end up hitting his weapon, I follow right back up again. That 1-2 can come off of the side of my body. If I do 1-2, and it's the rotating of my body, which gives me the acceleration. So I'm using my body as a fulcrum to accelerate that coming back on the 2 side. I can do the same thing on the 2-1, and you can hear the thump there when you go 2-1, 2-1, and I'm using this to launch off the side of my muscle off the side of my shoulder when I come here. You also have the timing where I fake them and hit, as I said before, or I fake and I hit, or it can be the fact that I hit his hand, and when I hit his hand, he momentarily freezes in time, so I pass his weapon and I hit back behind it. So I may hit the hand, pass the weapon, and hit behind it. Then there's the fact that I'm going through and he makes a broken motion and he's trying to do a thrust return, or he does a broken motion and he's trying to do it too. So when I go through and I recognize that, I may pass the weapon out of the way and then follow back up again. That's more contradas. I'm hitting behind the weapon, but I have multiple timings to get behind that. And so I have to be really quick and really cognizant. The reason why that I can get away with the speed on that is that usually because he's yielding a heavier weapon, he's usually a little bit slower. But I have to be ready for that all the time. And then conversely, in recontras is more like just pure raw power. And so I may come around and hit 1-2 thrust, and that's more of a recontra feel. So that I know that I'm gonna blast through his weapon, nail the body, thrust ahead as I go past. Or I may pass his hand and hit, lift, and then thrust. And it's more direct, and my timing is a lot more aggressive, and my timing has to be impeccable because he may be moving a little bit quicker. But it's the fact that when he comes in, I'm just gonna smash against his weapon and drive his weapon down. I'm gonna use my raw power versus his. And so there's the basic differences between cicadas, contradas, and recontras. Cicadas is versus someone who is about equal to you and about the equal weighted weapon. Contradas is more about the guy is bigger, stronger than you, or he's wielding a much heavier weapon than you are. So you really want to go power against power. And then in recontras is, again, you're the biggest guy. You're bigger, stronger, more powerful. And the techniques that you're going to use are going to be like, oh, I'm just there. And that's the major differences. I hope that answers some of the questions that some of you guys have on the different strategies and how we use those things.